What's going on, everybody? Back here with another BS News NFL recap. And this week we've got some great games, some incredible performances, some big time games from individual players, and some really bad games from individual players. Either way, we also got some questions later in this episode that come from some people around me that have some questions for this football season that I'd love to get into. Let's roll. All right, I think we solved the technological problems. The mics kept dying, but charged it up for a little bit. We're back and ready to go. We're going to start off just with a little recap like we did last week of some of the biggest games. I don't have as many as I did last week because it just felt time consuming to talk about the Titans and the Commanders and teams no one really cares about, all right? We're going to get into the Bills versus Lions game. I think this was the game of the week. I didn't really get to watch it because I was busy at work at the time. Didn't really get to tune in. I did watch the highlights and a lot of the plays yesterday after work, so I caught up with what happened. To kind of explain to you what happened, Josh Allen dominated again. He is the best quarterback in football right now. Yes, Mahomes has the trophies. Yes, Mahomes has the awards. Josh Allen is on pace to win his first MVP this year, and he is unlike any other quarterback in the league. He has the same scrambling ability, obviously not the same speed, but he is as much of a threat to run as guys like Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, those scrambler quarterbacks. But he also has a cannon like Pat Mahomes. He's accurate like Joe Burrow. He is a different type of player. He's an anomaly. He is, to me, the Shohei Ohtani of football. He's doing it unlike anyone has ever seen, really. He's 6'5", 6'6", running dudes over, jumping over guys, throwing bombs, juking people out. We have not seen anything like Josh Allen. And I believe even with them having not as good of a on paper roster as years before, this is the best chance they've had to win a Super Bowl. And honestly, at this point, they are my favorites to win the AFC. Even though Pat and those guys only have lost one game, it was to the Bills. And I think when it comes down to it, hopefully we don't get another last second Bills win the game or Chiefs win the game. No one wants to see that, dude. I'm tired. I'm tired of the Chiefs. All right. The Lions had a bunch of injuries. Dave Montgomery might be done for the year. He tore his MCL. They lost Aleem McNeil, who they signed to a giant extension this offseason. He's their best pass rushing interior defensive lineman. He's done for the year with a torn ACL. Carlton Davis isn't said to be back in the NFC Championship game. They've already lost Hutchinson. They're losing guys all over the place. They don't have any linebackers. I mean, they're running Jamal Adams out there, it seems like, in a bunch of different sets. Honestly, I like the Lions. They are a top 4-3 NFL team in football. But with the injuries they have, honestly, call it a hot take. I don't know if they really get to the NFC Championship. If they play, let's say, another healthy Green Bay in the cold, missing these top guys, I might have to go Green Bay. Because I know the money lines will say Detroit's winning that game. But if they play the Eagles fully healthy in the NFC Championship game, let's say they make it there, do they win? I don't know. They're losing too many guys for me to consider them the ultimate contender, especially with this loss this week. They were just getting shredded up. There was no hope for the Lions this week, and Josh Allen cruised to another win. We're going to move on to the Eagles versus Steelers game. As you guys know, I'm an Eagles fan. Jalen Hurts came out there, had a great performance, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns. He dominated through the air. Saquon didn't really do much. The offensive line played well. Even though TJ Watt was kind of a menace and Alex Highsmith had a sack, they protected Jalen well. He was able to find his guys, get A.J. Brown involved, get Devontae Smith involved. That's all we really needed was those two guys. They dominated completely. Our defense still looks great. The Steelers did not look as good without George Pickens, which isn't surprising because that's kind of Russ's go-to guy right now. So not having him in the lineup definitely hurt, especially when you're facing a top secondary like Philly has. It's hard to get the passing game going when you don't have that go-to guy on the third downs in the red zone. I can understand why they struggled, and they did mightily because Najee didn't get it going. I even believe he might have either fumbled, got hurt. I don't know what it was. I saw Najee Harris sitting on the sideline, helmet off. So something happened. I didn't really also get to tune into this game either. I just kept up with the stats, see what was going. I was just scoreboard watching, but the Eagles continue to dominate. They are the favorites in the NFC to me, as I was just talking down on the Lions. I've been saying it for a minute. Ben, you can call me a hater. I don't give a shit. Okay? The Eagles are the number one team in the NFC. We're going back to the bowl this year. And honestly, Bills, Eagles, Super Bowl would be a banger. It's going to be a high scoring game. Our defense is better than theirs, though. Josh Allen's better than Jalen Hurts. You can say what you want about that. But I think the Eagles have the best team in football. Now that we've got this defense going and the secondary is really coming up big, our linebackers have been playing amazing. We got all pro seasons from those guys, especially Zach Bond. He's had the highest coverage grade among all linebackers in the NFL, which he was a guy who Vic Fangio brought in, who originally was an edge rusher, outside linebacker. They moved him inside to play that Mike Will linebacker, and he has been amazing. Amazing is an understatement. This guy has been incredible. He's playing to an all-pro level, and he's leading this defense. There was a fight towards the end of the game. I saw Darius Slay was getting blocked through the end of the end zone by Darnell Washington, who's a 6'7", 250-pound athletic freak. I really loved him coming out of college. I thought he'd be more than he was, but my scouting for tight ends has not been good. Speaking, I thought Kyle Pitts was going to be a generational one. I mean, who didn't? That guy, 6'6", burner wheels. Enough about Kyle Pitts. Bust self. Pause. Bust. He's a bust. Pause. Yeah, the Eagles dominated the fight at the end of the game. Darius Slay, Darnell Washington. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell came in there shoving people around, like, hey, 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 hey. So I don't know. It looked pretty cool. Darnell Washington, you're mad because you're losing. Hold that for me. Let's get on to the Packers-Seahawks game. This game, I thought it was going to be a shootout as well. I thought this was going to be a vintage NFC Championship type of game where it's down to the wire. It's going to come down to whoever has the ball last type of game. It was not. Geno Smith got hurt in this one. He left the game. Sam Howell came in, and damn, did he look awful. Holy. Sam Howell is not the answer, Seattle. If you guys plan on moving on from Geno Smith this offseason, Sam Howell will not be the answer. I've been saying for a while they need a good, solidified, young talent in that quarterback room. Geno Smith is good, but he is not better than the top 15 quarterbacks, and that has really made a difference in some of these games. Sure, in games when you're playing a better quarterback like Kyler Murray, the Seahawks have managed to figure out a way because Arizona is so lackluster. But when he faces these other top quarterbacks, Geno Smith has been underwhelming. I don't think even Seahawks fans would disagree with me. When it comes down to being clutch in the red zone, third down plays, Geno Smith has not been the guy. And I understand he's a great locker room dude. He gets it done. Mostly he's up there in passing yards in the entire league. But Geno Smith is not the answer in Seattle. When your touchdown to turnover ratio is either even or within a 1-2 difference of ratio, you're not in a good spot. And that's where Geno Smith is right now. And Seattle is suffering from it as their defense has actually looked pretty good. Although they were getting beat down by the run in the beginning of the game, the Packers defense on the other side of the ball was able to contain that Seahawks offense, and I think that's what really made the difference. Seattle looked awful, and the Packers just kept rolling. So that's going to be, I guess I could talk about Leonard Williams. He's been an all-pro for the Seahawks. I believe he gets the all-pro nod. He has been their MVP of any player on the Seahawks. Leonard Williams. Don't let me disrespect. Should have gone to the Raiders a while back. But he's been amazing. He's going to get an all-pro nod this year, if not Pro Bowl. And, their secondary looks great. Seattle's got to figure it out in the quarterback room, in the offensive line especially. Sam Howell really showed kind of QB. Geno is a very mobile quarterback, even though, he doesn't run as much as guys like Lamar, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, those top running guys. He doesn't run as much, but he's very mobile within the pocket. And when Sam Howell entered that game and he's just getting pressured from everywhere, you can really see how bad that O-line is. They got Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas. Honestly, I haven't been watching tape on those guys, so I couldn't tell you if they've been elite or not this season. I know Charles Cross started off the year strong, but they've got work to do on that offensive front, and it's kind of been a problem for Seattle for a minute now since that Super Bowl team. They had a good offensive line, but now they're just kind of going through one-year contract guys. They've got some young dudes in there right now. Connor Williams retired, who is their center. But they've got a lot of stuff to work on in the quarterback room, O-line room, and they definitely need some new linebackers. I was seeing Josh Jacobs just stiff arm. I think there was a rookie out there, Tyrese Knight, I think is his name, number 48 in Seattle. Boom! just right to the chin. Bah! No, but Seahawks, we got a lot to work on. This is the end of the recap. We're gonna get into some mailbag questions though. Let's roll, boys. So, I almost fell out of my chair. So mailbag, just to inform you guys, there is this YouTuber I like watching. I mean, I'm not going to drop his link in the description, but John Meadow Coffee does this segment where he gets questions from people who watch his channel, and they kind of just ask questions about the season. It could be about their favorite team. It could be about a college team. It could be about anything, all right? You ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. The first question we've got is from a friend of mine, my co-host on the last video, Ben McKay. His question to me was, is CMC's career over? And if so, should the Niners think about taking Ashton Jeanty? My question to this is, or my answer is CMC's career over? No. But is it not looking good? Yes. The man has had multiple major injuries in the past few years. He didn't look as explosive when he came back, but I think it's because he was hampering an injury. I think they kind of misled people with what they diagnosed the injury as, calf strain, Achilles tendonitis, whatever. Dude was dealing with a partially torn Achilles, and he came back for his team's sake, and now he got injured again because when you're hampering one injury, you're kind of putting more stress on the other ones. So it wasn't surprising to me to see him go down doing that type of thing. Should the Niners take Ashton Jeanty, though? I believe Jeanty's going to be a first-round pick, even though he is a 5'7", 5'6", 5'8", whatever you want to classify him as, running back. He's going to be a first-round pick. The Niners are probably going to be picking within somewhere in the 20s. And I don't know. Jeanty's such a hard player to read because he's had such a dominant college career. But is he going to be worth a top 15, 20 selection in the NFL draft? I can't tell you with a guy being 5'8". He's not like the athletic freak. He's not a Saquon Barkley, a Derrick Henry coming out where their athleticism is so insane that it's like this guy will be good for a while. 5'8". Last time I heard a running back that big, Maurice Jones-Drew, Darren Sproles, Tariq Cohen, those guys. But it's a very rare collection of guys that are able to do that and be elite while being that size. So should they take him? I don't think so. I think they need to focus O-line, and they need to stop taking receivers in the first round and skill guys. They have good skill position players, but they need to take O-line, especially if they're going to sign Purdy to a ginormous contract, which it seems like they'll have to. They need to protect the guy. So that's the answer to your question, Ben. My next question is from a guy in my fantasy league. The next two questions are actually from people in my fantasy league, but the question is coming from Brad, Seattle, Washington. Who do you see coming out of the NFC West and NFC South? Two overall pretty shitty divisions where nearly any team could win it. From Brad. So, thank you, Brad, for the question. To answer your question, who do I see coming out of the NFC West? Honestly, I think it's still going to be Seattle. You guys didn't look good on Sunday night, but your guys' remaining schedule, I mean, you got the Vikings, which is going to be a tough game. We'll see who comes out of that one, but you guys will most likely beat the Bears. I think there's 3 games left. You might have the Rams again as well. That game's going to be a toss-up, but probably Rams or Seattle, I think, is who I would put money on to win the division. They're just the best teams in general, but I don't think the Niners, the Cardinals are sneaking in. They've been a little too inconsistent for me, especially the 49ers. I think their season's cooked in terms of playoff chances, but same thing with the Cardinals. We saw in the Seahawks game, like they're just not there yet. They've got some good young guys, but Kyler needs more around them, and their defense needs a lot of work. Coming out of the NFC South, though, I think this week kind of solidified it. Baker Mayfield and the Bucs dominated the Chargers. I honestly love to see that. I thought that game was going to be a lot closer. I thought the Chargers defense would look a little better than they did because they have looked great this entire season up until this point. And then they got shredded up by Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan, Bucky Irving was a beast out there, but Baker Mayfield just lit them up. And I think the Bucs end up taking that division. They are the best team in the division to me. Kirk Cousins, unless they start Michael Penix Jr., the Falcons, cooked. Done. They're done. Their defense is still bad. They're just not a great team. They have some good offensive and defensive pieces, but they're not there yet, and they've got a lot to think about when it comes to starting Penix Jr. and having Kirk Cousins on this 4-year, $140 million contract. I can't remember what it is, but they've got a lot to think about. So out of the NFC West, I got either if I had to put money down, I would put it on the Seahawks. The Rams are a very close second. They look good as well with their guys back and healthy. In the NFC South, I got the Bucks. I don't think it's a debate anymore. It kind of was in question when the Falcons were leading the division and the Bucks had just lost Chris Godwin, but I think now that the Bucks are still rolling and the Falcons are on a landslide to poverty, I got the Bucks coming out of the NFC South. All right, y'all. We've got our last mailbag questions of the day. It's coming from the same guy, Chris. He is also in my fantasy league. Thanks for shooting me some questions for today's episode. His first question was, should the Bengals be looking for a defensive-minded head coach? Could it change things up, and how so? Chris, thank you. I do think that the Bengals should be looking to move head coaches. I also think it's a personnel problem, though, too. The Bengals defense isn't just bad because they're calling the wrong plays. They're calling the wrong schemes. The players aren't getting it done. At the end of the day, you got to play your coverage and you have to dominate each possession. The Bengals have not done that. They've got some good pieces. Trey Hendrickson has been a top edge rusher the past 3 years now, so we'll see if they can keep him there. Cam Taylor-Britt has been intercepting a bunch of balls. He is also getting in the heads of some of the top receivers. He's a good corner. I like him. But they've got a lot of work on defensively. I think bringing in a guy like Vrabel, I honestly like the idea of Belichick before he went to UNC. But bringing in a guy like Mike Vrabel could help this team, especially if you get a good OC in there who can help Burrow with the offense. You're not going to need a lot when it comes to an offensive coordinator. When you have a guy like Joe Burrow, weapons like Chase, and if they can bring him back, T. Higgins. Chase Brown looks good. They're building up that O-line. Amarius Mims, the guy they took in the first round, he's a right tackle this year. Athletic freak. He has looked awesome, and he's really coming in, playing well. They've got some other pieces around the O-line that I like. I think bringing in a defensive head coach they have to shake some things up. And defensive side of the ball is where they need the most work. That's where they need the most coaching, and having someone that is defensive-minded while Joe Burrow and Chase get it done on offense. I like that idea, Chris. So my answer to you is yes, they should be looking for a defensive-minded head coach this offseason. In the final question of this episode, Kyler Murray or Geno Smith? Who will rally their team to the top of the NFC West? We did just talk about who's going to win the NFC West. I don't think that the Cardinals stand much of a chance to win the division anymore or make the playoffs. But in terms of the question, Kyler Murray or Geno Smith, I like that a little bit better. Honestly, Geno has a flashier arm. He's got more arm power. He has a pretty good deep ball. Kyler's shown some flashes of a deep ball. But because I feel Kyler Murray, he's another weird player to read because he's a phenomenal football player. He's got scrambling ability. He's an accurate quarterback. He doesn't turn the ball over a ridiculous amount. He makes plays that you don't see other players and quarterbacks in general make. It's just he hasn't had the success outside of the season where they started off, I think it was 9 or 11-0, and then they just tanked from there. I'm going to have to go Kyler because I just think he's a more talented player. He's not as frozen in those late game moments as Geno Smith is. I have more belief on the last game of a drive. Give me a quarterback, Kyler Murray or Geno, to win this game. I'm going to go Kyler Murray. And I don't even really think that's a discussion. I think Seahawks fans would agree on that. And I think Seahawks fans would also prefer Kyler Murray over Geno Smith in this current moment. Kyler Murray's a baller. They really got to fix that defense over there in Arizona. The O-line, Paris Johnson, I haven't heard much about him. He was their first-round tackle either a season ago or 2 seasons ago. They've got a lot of work to do up front on offense and defense. They need edge pressure. They need interior defensive line. They could honestly use some more linebackers, and they really need corner. Losing Byron Murphy and not replacing the guy. They've got a bunch of young guys out there at corner outside of Sean Murphy-Bunting, who's he's a solid number 3 in my opinion. Call me a hater if you want. Most of you probably don't know who that is. I really liked him when he was in Tampa Bay. Had a little stint in Tennessee. But the Arizona Cardinals have a lot to worry about outside of the quarterback position. I like Trey Benson. Trey Benson, their running back they took last year. He hasn't gotten much play time this year with James Conner just still continuing to be a solid option on the offensive side of the ball. All right, y'all. This is the end of the video. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap. I had fun with it. We had some great games this week. We got a lot more great games ahead of us. Tune in, hit that sub bell, hit that noti, and yeah, tune in next week.